Let's take a look at our first problem. We got 8x squared minus 12x minus 12 over 4. And the instructions say divide the polynomial in the numerator by the monomial in the denominator. Whenever you have a single term down here and you're talking about division, then you want to split this into separate fractions. So I'm going to put the 8x squared over 4 minus, I'll put the 12x over 4 minus, and I'll put the 12 over 4. Now at this point you simplify it. 8 divided by 4 is 2, so we got 2x squared minus 12 divided by 4 is 3x minus 12 divided by 4 is 3. So that'd be your answer. Our second problem, we got 4x to the third minus 8x plus 8x squared minus 7 all over 4x squared. Now notice we have a single term down in the denominator. So we're going to put each term over that. So we'll put the 4x to the third over the 4x squared minus 8x over the 4x squared plus 8x squared over the 4x squared minus 7 over the 4x squared. Now we want to simplify these. The 4's would cancel here. Now here we have x to a power over x to a power. Remember, we subtract the smaller exponent from the larger one. So we got 3 minus 2 is 1, and we put x to that power, x to the first power, where our larger exponent was, which was up on top. And then we put a placeholder of 1 down here. Minus 8 and 4 both divisible by 4. 8 divided by 4 is 2, 4 divided by 4 is 1. Now here we have x to a power over x to a power. Remember, if you just have x, that's x to the first. So we're going to subtract the smaller exponent from the larger one. 2 minus 1 is 1. And we'll have x to that power, x to the first power, where our larger exponent was, which was on the bottom. Plus 8 and 4 both divisible by 4. 8 divided by 4 is 2. 4 divided by 4 is 1. And these x squareds would cancel. Minus, and there's nothing that'll simplify in the last fraction, so we leave it alone. So we're going to have x minus 2 over x plus 2 minus 7 over 4x squared. And that's our answer. Okay, problem number 3. We want to find GCF of 56, 17, and 40. Well, we're thinking the largest number divides into all of them. And 56 is divisible by 2. 17 isn't. 40 is divisible by 2. So you start going down through your list. But the truth of the matter is 17 is prime. And 17 doesn't go into 56 and 17 doesn't go into 40. So the GCF for this problem would be 1. And that's our answer. Now for our fourth one, we got 33xy and we got 3x to the third y. And we want to find GCF. Well, let's first look at the numbers. 33 and 3, we think the largest number divides into both of those, which would be 3. Now the x's. We got x to the first power, we got x to the third power. So we want x. We always go with the one with the smallest exponent. And we got y and y, so it'd just be y. Okay, our fifth one. We got 5xy, 5x to the third y, and 5x squared. Okay, so first look at the numbers. 5, 5, and 5. Largest number divides into all of those is 5. Now the x's. Here we got x to the first, here we got x to the third, here we got x squared. You always go with the one with the smallest exponent, which is x to the first. Now y's. We have y the first. We have y the first. There is no y here. In order to be a greatest common factor, they all have to have it in common, the common part. So 5x would be our GCF. And let's see our sixth one. This says 5xy squared plus xy to the third. Now, if you were to go through the list I gave you in class of the factoring techniques, our first one is GCF. Well, they do have a GCF in common. They both have at least an x. And for our y's, they have a y squared and y to the third. Remember, we always go with the one with the smallest exponent, so we want y squared. Okay, so that 5 remains. This x is gone. Both of these y's are gone. Plus, that x is gone. And we had 3 y's and we took 2 y's out. So that leaves us just 1 y. So our answer will be xy squared times 5 plus y. Now they don't say anything about, I don't think they do. Let me scroll over. No, they don't say anything about putting it in standard form, so you don't need to worry about that. We got negative 14x squared minus 21y. Okay, start going through our methods in our list. GCF is the first one, and these do have a greatest common factor. Remember your note, if your first term is negative, you always bring out a negative. So I know right away a negative is going to come out. 14, 21. I'm thinking the largest number divides in both of those, and that'd be 7. And this has an x, but this doesn't. This has a y, and this doesn't have a y. So it can't bring any variables out. Both of them have to have the same variable. Okay, now remember factor means to divide out. So negative 14 divided by negative 7 is 2, x squared. Negative 21 divided by negative 7 gives us a positive 3, y. And that would be our answer. Okay, number 8. We got negative 14xy. We got plus 7xy squared plus 21 x squared y. And again, we want to factor it. First off, I notice it's not in standard form, but the instructions just want us to do GCF. Okay, so first thing I notice is my first term is negative, so I know a negative is going to come out. 14, 7, and 21, largest number divides in all those is 7. Here we got an x, here we got an x, and here we got an x. So they all have x's. So we figure out what to factor out, and it's always the one with the smallest exponent. This is x the first, this is x the first, this is x squared, so we'll bring out x the first, or x. Now this has a y, this has a y, and this has a y. And again, we always bring out one with the smallest exponent. This is y the first, this is y squared, this is y the first, so we'll bring out y to the first, or y. Okay, factor means to divide out. Negative 14 divided by negative 7 is 2. That x is gone, that y is gone. 7 divided by negative 7 is negative 1. And that x is gone, and we have 2 y's here, and we took 1 y away, so that leaves us a single y. 21 divided by negative 7 gives us negative 3. We had 2 x's, we took 1 out, so that leaves us a single x. We had 1 y, and we took that away, so there's no y's. So our answer would be negative 7xy times 2 minus y minus 3x. Okay, number 9. We got x to the 8th over x to the 5th. Kind of a bizarre one to be in the middle of factoring, but we'll work with it. Remember, if you have x to a power over x to a power, you subtract a smaller exponent from a larger one. So 8 minus 5 is 3, and we're going to have x to the third power where our larger exponent was, which was on top. And then we put a placeholder of 1 down below, so x to the third over 1 would be x to the third. Okay, number 10. We got AQ plus AV plus qy plus vy. I'm ignoring the instructions. We just start going down through our methods. GCF, well, all four terms don't have anything in common. Some have A's, some have Y's, some have V's, but all four terms don't have anything in common. Our next method is grouping, and you use grouping when you have four more terms. So based upon how this looks, I don't have any choice. We have to use grouping. Now the first group, the first two terms, they have an A in common. So I factor out GCF, and that gives us Q plus V. Now looking at our second group, the last two terms, they have a Y in common. So we'll factor a Y out, and that gives us Q plus V. Now remember, our goal in grouping is to get this parentheses same as this. So we're going to factor out the Q plus V, and that's going to leave us A plus Y. Remember, to decide what goes in your second set of parentheses, you can come up here and cross out the Q plus V's, and what isn't crossed out is what goes right here. So that's our answer. Okay, 11. Got P squared minus PY minus 6P plus 6Y. Okay. First off, I'll look for the GCF. And some have P's, some have Y's, some have that are divisible by 6, but all four terms have nothing in common. Now I start going down through my list. Grouping is four more terms, so I don't have any choice. I'm going to use grouping. Grouping, we group first two terms together, group last two terms together. Now looking at only our first group, we ask ourselves what the GCF is, which is P, and that'll give us P minus Y. Then we look at our last group, and I see they're both divisible by 6, so I can bring 6 out. And our first term's negative. Remember, whenever your first term's negative, you always bring out a negative. So we'll factor out a negative 6. Negative 6, what did I put that P there for? Okay. Factor out a negative 6, and then that gives us P minus Y. When you factor out a negative, it always flips signs. So see how this term was negative? So I got a positive. This term was positive, so I got a negative. Our goal with grouping was, again, to get this parentheses same as this one. So I'll factor out a P minus Y. Now to see what goes in your second set of parentheses, again, you can come up here. And if you cross out the P minus Y's, then what isn't crossed out is what goes right here, which would be P minus 6. And that's our answer. Okay, number 12. We got 54 BQ minus 8 WX. Boy, this is pretty bizarre. Plus 9 QW. Weird arrangement of letters. Minus 48 BX. Okay, start going down through our list. First method we look for is GCF, or the first method is GCF. So let's see if they have anything in common. 8 and 9, obviously they don't number-wise have anything in common. Some have B's, but not all of them. Some have X's, but not all of them. Some have Q's, but not all of them. I don't see where they have anything in common in terms of my four terms. Start going down through my list. Four more terms tells us to use factor in my grouping. So I group first two terms together, group last two terms together. First two terms are both divisible by, what are they divisible by? At least 4, or not 4, 2. But that doesn't work with this then. I think this is one you have to rearrange. Let me see. We factor 2 out, and they have nothing else. So that's 27 BQ. I don't remember working this one in class. Minus 8 WX. Now these, both divisible by 3. guess that's it. And that gives us 3QW minus 16BX. Did not work. So let's rearrange it. Okay, so I got B 54 BQ, and here's a B, so I'm going to put the B's together. So I got minus 48 BX. So B's and B's, I made sure those were together so they had something common variable-wise. Now look at my arrangement here. Then I got QX. So the one that has Q, which is this one, I'll put first. And then I'll put the minus 8WX at the end. Okay, so just to recap what I did is I looked for ones that had the same letter, B and B. And then I arranged it however you want. And then notice what the other letter was, QX. So over here I made sure that Q was first and X was second. Now let's try grouping. Okay, 6B is what they have in common. So that gives us 9Q minus 8X. Now over here, these have a W in common. So I factor out a W, and that gives me 9Q minus 8X. Now our goal was to get this parentheses same as this parentheses, which they are. So I factor that out in front. So that gives us 9Q minus 8X times 6B plus W. Now this attempt right here failed, so interesting problem. Okay, number 13. We got x squared plus 7x plus 12. Let's see, GCF, they don't have anything common. Groupings, 4 more terms. PSD, x squared x, no x, there's no number in front of our x squared. So we're going to use the PSD method. PSD, we take the number at the end, ignoring signs, so the 12. And we're going to come up with our 3 columns. P column, we write down all products to give us 12. We got 1 times 12, 2 times 6, 3 times 4. The S column, we add those. 1 plus 12 is 13, 2 plus 6 is 8, 3 plus 4 is 7. Difference column, we subtract smaller from larger. 12 minus 1 is 11, 6 minus 2 is 4, 4 minus 3 is 1. The number we're looking for is always a number in our middle term, which is 7, which is right here, which means we use 3 and 4. So I got 3 there, and I got 4 here. Okay, our larger number in the P column we're using 3 and 4, so our larger number is the 4, will always be same size as the middle term. The number we circled in the S column, S for same signs, both positive, both negative. Since this one's positive, then this one will be positive. And that's our answer. Let me save this page. Okay. And then start a new page. What problem do we end up on? Okay, we're ready for 14. And let me grab a drink before we continue on. I need to hydrate. X squared minus x minus 30. First method is GCF. They don't have anything in common. Groupings, 4 more terms. That doesn't fit. PSD. X squared x, no number in front of our x squared. So that fits. PSD, we take the number at the end, ignoring signs. So take 30. And we come up with our 3 columns. Now we're going to write down all products give us 30, P for product. So we got 1 times 30, 2 times 15, 3 times 10, 5 times 6. Now the S column. we're going to add those together. 1 plus 30 is 31, 2 plus 15 is 17, 3 plus 10 is 13, 5 plus 6 is 11. Difference column will subtract them, smaller from larger. 30 minus 1 is 29, 15 minus 2 is 13, 10 minus 3 is 7, 6 minus 5 is 1. Always the number we're looking for is a number in our middle term, which is a 1. So we're going to use 5 and 6. Okay. Our note on our signs, the larger number that we're using 5 and 6. So larger number is a 6, will always be the same sign as the middle term, which in this problem was negative. Number with circles in the difference column, D for different signs. So if this one's negative, this one has to be positive. And that's our answer. Okay, number 15. We got 2x squared minus 8x minus 24. Okay, so first method is GCF. Well, these have 2 in common. Excuse me. So factor out of 2. And that gives us x squared minus 4x minus 12. Now look at what's inside the parentheses. We got 3 terms. X squared x, no number in front of x squared. That tells us PSD. Now PSD, we take the number at the end, the 12, ignoring signs, and come up with our columns. So I'm going to write down all product, give me 12. I got 1 times 12, 2 times 6, 3 times 4. I want to add those. 1 plus 12 is 13, 2 plus 6 is 8, 3 plus 4 is 7. Then I want to subtract them, smaller from larger. 12 minus 1 is 11, 6 minus 2 is 4, 4 minus 3 is 1. Always the number we're looking for is a number in a middle term, which is 4, which is right here. So I'm going to use 2 and 6. Now the larger number in the P column that we're using 2 and 6, so larger one is a 6, is always the same sign as the middle term, which in this problem was negative. Number with circles in the difference column, D for different signs, one will be positive, one will be negative. If the 6 is negative, then the 2 has to be positive. And that's our answer. Okay, problem number 16. We got P squared plus 3PQ minus 40Q squared. Now, in order to factor, GCF really doesn't matter too much, but in order to factor PSD, key number, all those other ones, they should be in standard form. Standard form says you go from the largest power down to your smallest. And if I consider P, then it's in standard form. We got P squared, P, no P. Now, GCF, there isn't one. Groupings, 4 more terms, that doesn't fit. PSD, P squared, P, no number in front of our P squared. So that fits. This is another PSD. So we're going to take the number at the end, ignoring signs, so work with 40. We'll write down all products give us 40. We got 1 times 40, 2 times 20, 4 times 10, 5 times 8. Want to add those. 1 plus 40 is 41, 2 plus 20 is 22, 4 plus 10 is 14, 5 plus 8 is 13. The difference column, we want to subtract them, smaller from larger. 40 minus 1 is 39, 20 minus 2 is 18, 10 minus 4 is 6, 8 minus 5 is 3. Now the number we're looking for is a number in our middle term, which is 3, which is right here, so we're going to use 5 and 8. So I'm going to have P5, P8. Now our notes on our signs. The larger number in the P column we're using 5 and 8, so our larger one is the 8, is always the same sign as the middle term, which is positive in this problem. Remember our circles in the difference column, D for different signs, so if this one's positive, then this one's negative. Now how we handle those extra variables is we put a Q here and Q here. Reason why that works is if you look at the pattern, P squared, P, no P, we put P and P. Going backwards, Q squared, Q, no Q, we put Q and Q. Okay, let's look at 17. got 2x squared plus 20x plus 48. First off, my first method is GCF. I see they're all divisible by 2. So bring a 2 out. And that gives us x squared plus 10x plus 24. Now look at what's inside the parentheses. It's not grouping, because grouping is 4 more terms. It's PST, because we have x squared, x, no x, and no number in front of our x squared. It's specifically looking at what's inside the parentheses. So again, PST, we take the number at the end, the 24, ignoring signs, and come up with our 3 columns. Write down all products, give us 24. We got 1 times 24, 2 times 12, 3 times 8, 4 times 6. Want to add those. 1 plus 24 is 25, 2 plus 12 is 14, 3 plus 8 is 11, 4 plus 6 is 10. Difference column. Want to subtract them, smaller from larger. 24 minus 1 is 23, 12 minus 2 is 10, 8 minus 3 is 5, 6 minus 4 is 2. Now the number we're looking for is a number in our middle term, which is 10, but we got 2 10s. To decide which one to use, if you look at your sign here at the end, if it's a positive, it'll always be in the S column. If it's a negative, it'll always be in the difference column. And that holds true in every problem. So in actuality, you wouldn't have to create both columns on these problems. Like this one was a negative here at the end, which means that I was automatically in the difference column. I did not even need to create the S column. Okay, so we're looking, okay, this is positive, so we're looking in the S column. So the 10 we want is right here. So we're going to use 4 and 6. So I got x4, x6. Our notes on our signs, the larger number in the P column, we're using 4 and 6, so larger one's a 6, will always be the same sign as the middle term, which in this problem was a positive. Number with circles in the S column, S for same signs. So since this one's positive, this one has to be positive. And that's our answer. Okay, number 18. We got 5x squared minus 6x minus 8. First method is GCF. Well, there isn't anything common. Groupings, 4 more terms, that doesn't fit. PST is close, except for there's a number in front of the x squared. This is key number. Key number occurs when you have x squared, x, no x, and there's a number in front of your x squared. So we're going to take the number at the beginning times the number at the end, ignoring signs. When I say the number at the beginning, I'm talking about the number before the x squared. I'm talking about the number at the end, I'm talking about the constant term over here, which is going to give us 40. We're going to build a PST table based upon 40. We're just going to do something with it a little bit different. All the products give us 40. We got 1 times 40, 2 times 20, 4 times 10, 5 times 8. Add them. 1 plus 40 is 41, 2 plus 20 is 22, 4 plus 10 is 14, 5 plus 8 is 13. Difference column, subtract smaller from larger. 40 minus 1 is 39. 20 minus 2 is 18. 10 minus 4 is 6. 8 minus 5 is 3. Number we're looking for is always a number in a middle term, which is a 6, which is right here. So I'm going to use 4 and 10. Now with the key number, we use that, we do it a little bit different. We just don't write down our answer. We're going to rewrite our middle term using those two numbers. So we use 4 and 10. Now note on our sign still holds true. The larger number in the P column we're using 4 and 10, so a larger one's a 10, will always be same sign as the middle term, which in this problem is a negative. So we got minus 10x. The number we circle is in the difference column. D for different signs. It means one will be positive, one will be negative. Since the 10 was negative, the 4 is going to be positive. Well, then we're going to factor by grouping. The first group has a 5 and an x in common, and that gives us x minus 2. Last group has a 4 in common, and that gives us x minus 2. Now our goal was to get this parentheses same as this one, which they are. So I'll factor out an x minus 2, and then that gives us 5x plus 4. And that's our answer. Okay, number 19. We got 15x squared. So 15x squared minus 32x minus 7. Okay, first method, GCF, there isn't any. Groupings 4 or more terms, that doesn't fit. PST is close, except for there's a number in front of the x squared. This is key number. Key number occurs when you got x squared, x, no x, and there's a number in front of your x squared. And that doesn't have to be x's, can be any variable. So again, with the key number, we take the number at the beginning times the number at the end, ignoring signs. So 15 times 7 gives us 105. Come up with our 3 columns. All products give us 105. We got 1 times 105, 2, no. 3 times 35. 4, no. 5 times 21. 6, no. 7 times 15. 8, no. 9, no. 10, no. 11, no. 12, I think that's probably it. Okay, atom. 1 plus 105 is 106. 3 plus 35 is 38. 5 plus 21 is 26. 7 plus 15 is 22. Subtract them. 105 minus 1 is 104. 35 minus 3 is 32. 21 minus 5 is 16. 15 minus 7 is 8. You'll know, if you don't have your number, then that probably means there's more products we didn't get to. But we're looking for 32, which is right here. So we're going to use 3 and 35. And again, what we do with that is we rewrite our middle term using those 2 numbers. Our larger number in the P column we're using, which is 35, will always be the same sign as the middle term, which is negative. So we got minus 35x. Number we circled in the difference column, D for different signs. So if the 35 is negative, the 3 has to be positive. Then we factor by grouping. First group has a 5 and an x in common, and that gives us 3x minus 7. The last group has nothing in common, but you always want to bring something out, so you can always bring out a positive one if nothing else. And that leaves us 3x minus 7. Our goal was to get this parentheses the same as this, so I factor out a 3x minus 7, and that leaves us 5x plus 1. And that's our answer. Okay, that was, what was that? 19? 19. So let's look at 20. We got 24 a to the third b plus 52 a squared b plus 24ab. Our first method of factoring is always GCF. 24, 52, and 24, I think all at least by 4. I think that's it. Now A's. A third, A squared, A. So we'll bring out an A. Always bring out the one with the smallest exponent. B, B, B. So bring out a B. Okay. 24 divided by 4 is 6. We had 3 A's. Took 1 away, so that leaves us 2 A's. That B's gone. Plus 52 divided by 4 is 13. Had 2 A's, took 1 away, so that leaves a single A, and that B's gone. Plus 24 divided by 4 is 6. And that A's gone, that B's gone. Okay, that was our GCF. Now looking at what's inside the parentheses, we have A squared, A, no A, and there's a number in front of the A squared. That's key number. So key number, we take the number at the beginning times the number at the end, ignoring signs. So we got 6 times 6, number at the beginning times the number at the end. And that gives us 36. Come up with our 3 columns. All products give us 36. We got 1 times 36, 2 times 18, 3 times 12, 4 times 9, 6 times 6. Atom, 1 plus 36 is 37, 2 plus 18 is 20, 3 plus 12 is 15, 4 plus 9 is 13. 6 plus 6 is 12. Subtract them. Smaller from larger. 36 minus 1 is 35. 18 minus 2 is 16. 12 minus 3 is 9. 9 minus 4 is 5. 6 minus 6 is 0. Now, the number we're looking for is the 13, which is right here. So we're going to use 4 and 9. Now, our 4ab carries down, and we're going to rewrite our middle term using those two numbers. Now, the larger number in the p column we're using, which is the 9, is always going to be the same sign as the middle term, which in this case was positive. So we've got plus 9a. Number with circles in the S column, S for same signs, both positive, both negative. Since the 9 is positive, then the 4 will be positive. And then I want to factor by grouping. 4ab just comes down. I'll put a bracket here to separate it from the parentheses. Look at the GCF of the first group, which is 3a, and that gives us 2a plus 3. GCF of the second group, they both have a 2 in common, and that gives us 2a plus 3. Now our goal was to get these parentheses same, which they are. So I'm going to have 4ab, I'll factor out the 2a plus 3, and then 3a plus 2 is what goes in your second set of parentheses. After you cross these out, it'd be what's left, 3a plus 2. And let me go ahead and save that, and we'll go to the next page. Okay, so page 2. And, okay. So number 21. 5v squared plus 16v plus 3. Okay, first method, GCF, there isn't one. Groupings, 4 more terms, that doesn't fit. PST is close, but there's a number in front of the v squared. This is key number, because we have v squared, v, no v, and there's a number in front of v squared. Okay, so with our key number, we take our number at the beginning times the number at the end, ignoring signs. So I got 5 times 3 is 15. We're going to write down all products give us 15. We got 1 times 15, 3 times 5. Add them. 1 plus 15 is 16, 3 plus 5 is 8. Subtract them. 15 minus 1 is 14, 5 minus 3 is 2. Always the number we're looking for is a number in a middle term, which is 16, which is right here. So I'm going to use 1 and 15. So first term remains as is, last term remains as is. Again, what we do is we rewrite our middle term using these two numbers. Our larger number in the p column we're using, which is 15, will always be the same sign as the middle term, which is positive. Number with circles in the S column, S for same signs. So either both positive, both negative. Since the 15 is positive, then 1 has to be positive. Then we factor by grouping. Group first two terms together, group last two terms together. First two terms have a 5v in common, and that gives us v plus 3. Last group has nothing in common, but we can always bring out a 1, and that gives us v plus 3. Again, our goal is to get this parentheses the same as this, which it is. So I'll factor out a v plus 3, and that leaves us 5v plus 1. And that's our answer. Okay, 22. Let me grab a drink also. Okay, we got 25x squared minus 4. Okay. 25x squared minus 4. Okay, first method, GCF. There isn't any. Groupings, 4 more terms. That doesn't fit. PSD and key number are both 3 terms. That doesn't fit. Dots. 2 terms with a minus trinket. That fits. So let's try that. Difference 2 squares. So we're going to try to write it as something squared minus something else squared. We'll start with our first piece, 25. You ask yourself what times itself gives you 25, and that'd be 5. Then go to the x squared. You ask yourself what times itself gives you x squared, and that'd be x. 5 times 5 gives you 25. X times x gives you x squared. Another 4. 2 times 2 would give you 4. So we were able to write it in that form. So what's inside our first set of parentheses, we'll label as F for first. And what's inside our last set of parentheses is L as last. Now our formula says F plus L times F minus L. So everywhere there's an F, I'll plug in 5x, and everywhere there's an L, I'll plug in 2. So I got 5x plus 2 times 5x minus 2. And that's our answer. Okay, number 23. Got 9x squared minus 25y squared. Okay, GCF, there isn't any. Groupings, 4 more terms, that doesn't fit. PST and key number are both 3 terms, that doesn't fit. Dots, difference 2 squares, 2 terms with minus between it, that fits. So we're going to try to write it as something squared minus something else squared. Well, we look at the 9, we ask ourselves what times self gives us 9, and that's 3. 3 times 3. X times x gives you x squared. 5 times 5 gives you 25, and y times y gives you y squared. So we were able to write it as something squared minus something else squared. Now we'll label that as F for first. I'll label this as L as last. Our formula for dots is F plus L times F minus L. Now everywhere there's an F, I'll plug in 3x, and everywhere there's an L, I'll plug in 5y. So I got 3x plus 5y and 3x minus 5y. And that's our answer. Okay. I hear screaming in the background. I'm not sure what that means, but probably better not to know with my kids. Y squared minus 8xy plus 16x squared. Now it is in standard form. Standard form says you pick a variable and you go from largest power down to smallest. So y squared, y, no y. Start going through our list. GCF, there isn't any. Groupings, 4 more terms. PST, it follows that form. Because we got y squared, y, no number in front of our y squared. So we're going to take the number at the end, ignoring signs. So take a look at 16. And come up with our 3 columns. We got 1 times 16, 2 times 8, 4 times 4. We'll add them. 1 plus 16 is 17, 2 plus 8 is 10, 4 plus 4 is 8. Difference column, we subtract them, smaller from larger. 16 minus 1 is 15, 8 minus 2 is 6, 4 minus 4 is 0. Always a number we're looking for in PST is a number in the middle, which is the 8, which is right there. So we're going to use 4 and 4. Okay, so we got y4, y4. Now, larger number in the P column we're using, they're both 4, so there's no larger number. So we'll just pick a 4. Is always the same sign as the middle term, which is negative. So that'll be negative. Number with circles in the S column, S for same signs, both positive, both negative. Since this one's negative, then this one has to be negative. Now how we handle those extra variables is you put x here and x here. And again, the reason why is if we look at the patterns, we have y squared, y, no y, so we have y and y. Going backwards, we have x squared, x, no x, so we have x and x. Now that would be our answer. Some people like to write it in this form, y minus 4x to the second power. I'm not picky about that myself. Either form's fine. Okay, let's look at 25. So we got 16x squared minus 16x plus 9. The implication on these is that these are perfect square trinomials. But I like the fact that PST and key number work on every problem. So you don't have to sit there and memorize another technique. Okay, GCF, there isn't any. Groupings, 4 more terms, that doesn't fit. PSD is close, but there's a number in front of the x squared. This is key number. We got x squared x, no x, number in front of our x squared. So we're going to take the number at the beginning times the number at the end, ignoring signs. So we got 16 times 9 gives us 144. Write down all products give us 144. We got 1 times 144, 2 times 72, 3 times 48, 4 times let's see, 24, 36, 5 no, 6 times 24, 7 no, 8 yeah, 8 times 18, 9 times 16, 10 no, 11 no, 12 times 12. Okay, so add them. 1 plus 144 is 145, 74, 51, 40, 30, 26, 25, 24. I always kid my class how many of these do you have to add and subtract correctly. Answer is only one, the one we're looking for. So if you add or subtract incorrectly on some of these, not a big deal unless it's the one you're looking for. Okay. And 0. Ah, I don't see 16. Did I write that down right? 1 times 144. Did I multiply that correctly? 5. 2 times 72. 3 times, probably can't factor it. What a horrible joke if it is. Okay, 12, 24, 18. Okay, 4 times, yeah. 6 times, I was just being flippant when I was saying that, you have to, there's only one of them you have to get correct. Okay, I'm being punished for that. 18, 9 times 16, 12 times 12. Add them. Actually, I need 16. And I look in the plus. This means it has to be in the S column. So, okay, add those, those, 26, add those, and I get 25. Add those, I get 24. 16 is, okay, these are declining, aren't they? And there's nothing past this, so I guess I can't factor it. At least I can, that's all I can see anyway. So not factorable. Oh man, that was a horrible one for nothing. Okay, 26. 64 y to the 6 plus 27. Okay, so GCF, there isn't any. Groupings, 4 more terms, that doesn't fit. PSD and key number are both 3 terms, that doesn't fit. Dots and difference of 2 cubes are 2 terms of the minus between it, that doesn't fit. Sum of 2 cubes, that fits. 2 terms of the plus between it. So we're going to try to write this as something to the third power plus something else to the third power. Okay, we look at 64 first, and I'm asking myself what times itself 3 times gives me 64. Well, 4 times 4 times 4. Now y to the 6, that would be y squared. Now remember the trick for that. You take whatever's power is here, you divide by this one. 6 divided by 3 gives you 2. Now for 27, 3 times 3 times 3 gives you 27. So I'm going to label this. This is what's my first set of parentheses, so F for first. This is what's my last set of parentheses, so L for last. And this is the sum of 2 cubes, which looks like this. F plus L times F squared minus FL plus L squared. Now we're going to go through, and everywhere I have an F, I'll plug in 4y squared, and everywhere I have an L, I'll plug in 3. So I got 4y squared plus 3, and here I'm going to have 4 y squared to the second power minus 4y squared times 3 plus 3 squared. So we've got 4y squared plus 3. Now, if I square the 4, that gives me 16. If I square the y squared, that gives me y to the fourth. Or you could take 4y squared times 4y squared. Minus 4 times 3 is 12y squared. And 3 squared gives us 9. Now, this always looks like you can take it down further, but this had to have to be twice as much as it is for you to go further. So that'd be your answer. And let me start a new page. So let's look at 27. How many problems there are. We're just about done. Only 30. Okay, 27 y to the third minus 1. Okay, first technique is GCF. There is none. Groupings 4 or more terms. That doesn't fit. PSD and key number both 3 terms. That doesn't fit. Dots. Difference 2 squares. That fits. 2 terms the minus string it. But if I tried it, what times itself gives you 27? Nothing. It fails. So we go on our list, and difference 2 cubes is also 2 terms the minus string it. So we're going to try to write this as something to the third power minus something else to the third power. People ask, well, since they're both 2 terms of the minus string it, which one do you use? Well, first you try difference 2 squares, dots, and if that doesn't work, then you use difference 2 cubes. Okay, and we're going to ask ourselves what times itself 3 times gives us each piece. 3 times 3 times 3 gives us 27. Y times y times y gives us y to the third. And 1 times 1 times 1 gives us 1. So we were able to write it as something to the third power minus something else to the third power. Now what's inside our first set of parentheses, we label as F for first. What's in our last set of parentheses is L for last. This is the formula for the difference of 2 cubes. So we got F minus L times F squared plus FL plus L squared. So everywhere there's an F, I'll plug in 3y, and everywhere there's an L, we'll plug in 1. So we got 3y minus 1, 3y squared plus 3y times 1 plus 1 squared. So we'll have 3y minus 1. 3y times 3y gives us 9y squared. 3y times 1 is 3y, and 1 squared is 1. And that would be our answer. Okay, number 28. We've got negative 18x squared equals 8x. Now this one, we want to use the zero factor property to solve it. The zero factor property says you have to get 0 on one side. Doesn't matter which side. I'll take the 8x and move it over to the left side. So we've got negative 18x squared minus 8x is equal to 0. Zero factor property, get 0 on one side. And then we want to factor the other side. Well, first method is GCF. And I see that my first term is negative, so I'll bring out a negative. And they're both divisible by 2. And they both have an x. Now negative 18 divided by negative 2 gives us 9. We had 2 x's, we took 1 away, so that leaves us a single x. Negative 8 divided by negative 2 is 4, and that x is gone. Zero factor property. Get 0 on one side, you factor the other side, you set each factor equal to 0. So I'll set negative 2x equal to 0, and 9x plus 4 equal to 0. Now these are linear equations at this point, so we'll go through our 4 steps. First step, get rid of parentheses, don't have any. Second step, get rid of fractions, don't have any. Third step, get everything with x on one side, numbers on the other side. That's done. Last step, divide both sides by number in front of your x. So we'll divide both sides by negative 2. And we get x equals 0. Now this one, get rid of parentheses, don't have any. Get rid of fractions, don't have any. Third step, get everything with the x on one side, numbers on the other. So I'll take the 4 over to the right side, and it becomes a negative 4. Last step, divide both sides by the number in front of your x. So we'll divide both sides by 9. and we'll get x is equal to negative 4/9. And those are our two answers. Okay, number 29. Let me grab a drink. Now let's take a look at this one. Got x squared minus 4x plus 1 equals negative 2. Now, zero factor property says we have to get 0 on one side. So first thing I'll do is take that negative 2, move it over. So we're going to have x squared minus 4x plus 1 plus 2 is equal to 0. Or x squared minus 4x plus 3 equals 0. Okay, now we need to factor. And this is PSD. Because we have a x squared, no number in front of x squared. So we take our number at the end, which is 3, ignoring signs, and come up with our table. Well, the only thing that gives us 3 is 1 times 3. So add them. 1 plus 3 is 4. Subtract them. 3 minus 1 is 2. Number we're looking for is a number in our middle term, which is 4, which is right here. So we use 1 and 3. Now the larger number we're using, which is 3, is always the same sign as the middle term, which is negative. Number we circles in the S column, S for same signs, both positive, both negative. Since this one's negative, this one has to be negative. Now zero factor property says you get 0 on one side, you factor the other side, you set each factor equal to 0. So I'll set x minus 1 equal to 0, and I'll set x minus 3 equal to 0. So that gives us x equals 1 and x equals 3. Okay, number 30. Got 5x squared minus 23x minus 12 is equal to negative 2. Okay, we're going to be using the zero factor property, so we have to get everything over one side and 0 on the other. So I'll take negative 2 over, and we got 5x squared minus 23x minus 12 plus 2 equal to 0. Which gives us 5x squared minus 23x, negative 12 plus 2 gives us negative 10 equal to 0. Now we need to factor, and this is going to be the key number. Reason I know that is because we got x squared, no number in front of x squared. So we'll take the number at the beginning times the number at the end, ignoring signs. So 5 times 10 is 50. Write down all products to give us 50. We got 1 times 50, 2 times 25, 3 no, 4 no, 5 times 10. Add them. 1 plus 50 is 51, 2 plus 25 is 27, 5 plus 10 is 15. Subtract them. Smaller from larger. 50 minus 1 is 49, 25 minus 2 is 23, 10 minus 5 is 5. Number we're looking for is a number in our middle term, which is 23, which is right here. So we're going to use 2 and 25. Now I'll come down here to write that step. We're going to rewrite our middle term using those two numbers. The larger number that we're using, which is 25, will always be same sign as the middle term, which is negative. Number we circles in the difference column, D for different signs. One will be positive, one will be negative. Since the 25 is negative, then the 2 has to be positive. Then we want to factor by grouping. First group has a 5x in common, and that leaves us x minus 5. Second group has a 2 in common, and that leaves us x minus 5. Now our goal was to get this parentheses same as this, which it is. So I'll factor out an x minus 5, and that gives us 5x plus 2. And now we're ready for the zero factor property. Zero factor property. You get 0 on one side, you factor the other side, you set each factor equal to 0. So I'll set x minus 5 equal to 0, and I'll set 5x plus 2 equal to 0. Now this one, take the negative 5 to the right side, becomes a positive 5, and that's our answer. Here I'll take the 2 over, it becomes a negative 2, and then divide both sides by 5. And we get x is equal to negative 2/5. And those are our answers. And the end of that video.